Morning. Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Chernoff, and I am the Associate Director of Next Generation Engagement here at NJIT. This session, as I mentioned before, is being recorded and it will be available on our alumni YouTube channel. And I'll send an email once the webinar is over with that link. Thank you for joining us for our third session of the Adulting 101 series. I'm really glad to welcome you to tonight's session, A Simple Guide to HR and Benefits. Adulting 101 is a webinar series designed to help young professionals in the Highlander community feel more confident navigating life after college. Each session has covered practical real-world topics. We had one on building credit, we had one on acting like a leader, and now we have one on benefits. We'll also have some coming up on career development and wellness later this year. Excuse me. It is sponsored by our Young Alumni Association, which represents our graduates of the last decade. And to learn how you can get involved, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. My email was all in your confirmation email that you got, and I'd love to talk to you more. So before we jump in, I just want to share some details on how things will work tonight. When you entered, your microphones were muted, and we kindly ask you please keep your microphone muted during the presentation, unless the presenters ask a question. You're welcome to keep your video on or off, whatever you're most comfortable with. Feel free to type questions in the comments in the chat box. I'll be moderating them, and we'll take some time to answer those maybe throughout the session and then definitely at the end of the session as well. As I mentioned, I'll send a link out with the recording as well as a post-event survey. If you can please take the time to complete it once the webinar is finished, we really appreciate your feedback. So tonight, you will learn how to navigate the workplace with ease and how to use your HR and benefits team as resources. You'll learn strategies to advocate for yourself professionally and gain practical tips for navigating uncomfortable situations. We'll also take a deep dive into benefits, including common overlooked perks and how to make the most of them. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our presenters and my HR and benefits team, Ariana Smith and Angel Swai. Ariana Smith is an HR generalist here at NJIT, where she partners with multiple departments across the university. She holds a BS and MBA in human resources and has built her experience through roles at Activision Blizzard, Dunn and Bradstreet, HR consulting, and leading global HR projects. Ariana is known for delivering clear, practical solutions and helping people confidently navigate their careers and workplace challenges. Angel is the director of benefits at NJIT. She holds an director of employee benefits and wellness at NJIT. She holds an MBA in human resources and has been with NJIT since 2012, growing her career through several roles in HR and benefits. She brings deep expertise in employee benefits and is dedicated to supporting the well-being of the NJIT community through impactful and accessible programs. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Ariana to get us started.
Thank you so much for that very nice and warm welcome, Heather. Everyone, I'm really, really excited to be here just because this session is really all about making work feel a little less confusing and a lot more manageable. So as Heather stated, we're going to walk through, how to actually use HR, how to advocate for yourself. So we're going to start off with a general HR bit, and then we're going to go into the benefits piece. So what I'd first like to ask everyone is, how do you perceive HR? Please unmute yourself and tell us. We'd love to know.
Would you prefer the truth or a lie?
We need the truth. Only the truth is only accepted here. So tell us.
The Grim Reaper.
Ah, but you're right, that's the truth. No, so what I thank you for sharing that. And that's actually what I would like to start off with is and I want to start off with this topic because it's really one of the biggest misconceptions about HR is that we are truly a resource. We are not a threat. We're not here to get you in trouble. We're really here to support both you as an individual and the organization. So what that really looks like, right, is helping you navigate uncomfortable situations, answering questions, and making sure things are truly handled consistently and fair. And the truth of the matter is, like, when we look at leadership, leadership is role models, but not everything may be done right. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So, yes, HR may be the reaper, but we are like the grim reaper of like compliance and doing things right. So, also understand this, right? Like, there are times where there are sensitive topics that need to go through your manager, right? And that can be like communicating a promotion to someone directly, or a certain team decision that's actually made outside of HR. So just know that even in those situations, HR is there behind the scenes, like helping you, maybe even your manager too, like thinking through how to like approach those tough conversations. So at the end of the day, HR is here to really support you in the organization, help you navigate an array of different challenges, but really to provide guidance and not punishment. So that means, right, you can reach out to us. Evan, did you have something else you wanted to share?
Oh no, I'm good. Thank you though.
Okay, cool. No,
Uh,
but thank you so much for sharing that though. Like that actually means a lot, and I really truly think that's how HR is perceived. Like, who are these people? You never see them. Like, do they even exist?
Debbie also wrote in the chat, hi, I've always heard HR is there for the organization and not really for the employee.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Debbie. And I truly think that is how it's perceived, right? So let me actually now pivot into when you should actually use HR. So know that when it's time to use HR, you don't have to wait until something feels very serious or like you're just like feel like you're backed up against the wall. The best time to use us most of the times is to come to us when you're not sure. So if something feels off to you, if you feel like you need a second opinion or you want to like you need a thought partner about how to navigate something professionally, like that's exactly where we're here for. So when you think about the organization, take the organization away. Think about you as an individual and take a pause and like maybe it's time to reach HR if you reach these questions. Like, am I thinking about this the right way? How would what I want to communicate or share be perceived? Is it positive or how should I handle this in a professional way? So let me actually give you like a very, very recent example, right? So I had a new hire come to me, like she probably started maybe like probably she came to me within her first 90 days. And she came to me because she was getting conflicting direction from her manager and wasn't sure how to handle it. So, she truly was confused. So let's say she was hired into a certain job description and she came into the organization thinking day one, I'm gonna do one, two, three. So she was very confused by that. So she wanted to, of course, approach her manager, but she also didn't want to like come off in the right way. She really just wanted to do a good job. So she reached out to me, we talked through it, and I gave her like a few simple talking points, including like really just framing the conversation of I want to be successful here and I want to make sure I'm aligned, not like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm very confused. Like, communicate to me in a different way. And the truth of the matter is, the manager could have had absolute poor communication. It happens. We're human, but it's all about how you think of it. So we took the pivot from she can improve, my manager can improve her communication skills to, okay, I want to be successful here. How can I do that? So, having that conversation, right, her feeling comfortable to lean on HR, really made a small difference. She felt way more confident in going back to her manager. When she actually did, they actually had more open and transparent conversations. She actually walked away from those conversations like feeling productive. So I say all that to say is you probably should use HR when you don't know. And it's not limited to, let's say, an interpersonal conflict you can have with your manager, or okay, how do I change my first name? Okay, I saw an email come through with open enrollment for the month of April only. Who should I reach out to? Should I submit a ticket or should I just reach out to the general benefits email? So just know HR is here, and if you don't know, just reach out. So let's get into this next one. Confidentiality. I think this is another super big question all the time is, okay, it's probably time to talk to HR, but is what I share actually going to be confidential? Is what I feel comfortable with communicating going to be left here? And the honest answer is we handle everything with the utmost discretion, but not every single thing can stay completely confidential. So if something needs to be escalated or addressed more formally, we'll always let you know. So the situation previously that I just shared with the new hire, that conversation stayed with us. It was absolutely no reason to go back to the manager and say, "Hey, your employee's feeling confused." No, they are a professional. They use HR as their resource, and they got some really great tips on how to navigate that issue. So, no, the goal here when it comes to reaching out to HR is the goal is transparency. We do not want to surprise you. We don't ever want you to walk away feeling like wondering what's left behind the scenes or like what's really going on. So when you actually reach out to us, right, we're going to take a pause and listen. We're going to ask probing questions, but know that we're not going to immediately jump into action the moment we get off the call. We need to listen and understand what's going on. We need to think about it from a micro and macro perspective. And then from there, we actually assess the situation. And then probably we'll follow up with you with possible next steps. If the specific situation allows for it, we'll actually say, "Hey, are you okay if we move forward with this approach?" Or sometimes, let's say somebody could be in danger. That's not a situation that we need to keep confidential. So, depending on the situation, it can look like guidance, it could look like support, it could look like taking actual action where needed. We'll then follow up. We never disappear. We'll always stay connected and make sure that you get that continuous support. So, yes, we'll handle everything. We'll try to keep everything as confidential as possible. So, just know we're navigating it and not always going to leave you guessing. So this next one is really, really big, right? And having the ability to advocate for yourself is probably one of the most important skills you can build early in your career. Advocating for yourself, that can feel uncomfortable early in your career. You could potentially feel like sometimes, like, okay, speaking up can be perceived as being difficult when it actually isn't. It's about being clear on your value and your goals and what you need to be successful. So it doesn't mean being loud or aggressive. It's all about being clear, consistent, and intentional about how you show up and communicate your impact. So, like, I say all that, right? But what does this actually look like in practice? It can be as simple as expressing interest in a new opportunity. Let's say you could have been in your role for a year or two, you're ready to grow, you're ready to take things to the next level. You can't assume your manager would know that. You can't assume anybody would know that. You need to be able to communicate that. So express interest in new opportunities. It can be within your team. It can be, you know what, I'm not feeling this in the department anymore. I may want to pivot into I want to, pivot into something else. So be comfortable, start to feel comfortable with thinking into yourself, and expressing your interest and never wait to be asked. That also means seeking feedback so you can understand your expectations and know where you stand. So we all, we have a performance review every year. We should be having regular meetings with your manager. So if you're not talking to your manager at least once a month, then I recommend being proactive and getting that meeting on the books. In that meeting is where you can ask for your feedback. "Hey, manager, what am I excelling at?" Or, "You know what? I need you to be honest with me and tell me the areas in which I can improve." When you are proactive in your own career and your own development, that shows you're dedicated and you're engaged. And when that new opportunity comes up, you're going to be top of mind to your manager. So, know that, you have to make your contributions visible. They're never assumed. At the same time, you also want to keep track of your accomplishments. You are in your job all day, every day, and there are probably small things that you do that change how you do your work. Or there could be a resource that you find that changes how your team does your work. So write that down. And when it comes time for reviews or check-ins, you want to speak to those. And that's the kind of information that's needed to help support your development, whether it's a promotion or pivot to a new team or department. So when you have these proactive conversations with your manager, right? You're seeking that feedback, you're expressing interest, you're doing that reflection on yourself. That also builds a very, very strong relationship, not only with your manager, but the team around you, not only are the relationships strong, that also means like meaningful. These people that you interact with are the people who may support you in your development. So know that when you want to advocate for yourself, right? Advocating really doesn't mean speaking up, being difficult. It's about being a bit louder and more intentional with how you show your value. And um, kind of pivoting off of that, right? And aside from advocating for yourself, a big part of what I spoke about is making sure your work is visible. The reality is that, like I said, no one knows what you do. Um, People may also make assumptions about what you do. So that means make sure you share regular updates, highlighting your wins, and making sure people understand how your work connects to the broader organization goal, right? So let's say, let me give you an example. It could be a sales organization, right? A sales team has an annual goal to make $100,000, right? And that goal of $100,000 is going to be completed by, let's say, the 10 people that are under them. So let's say you are that one person that's responsible for $10,000. What did you do to get that? Share that. Make notes. So when you think about being visible. It's never, you don't want to be too cocky with it either. You want to just say, hey, this is what I'm doing good. Or you can do it in like a shared forum. Hey, team, or maybe in a group chat, you can share something that you've done or something that was a really, really positive impact on your team as well. So timing matters, approach matters, and how you communicate your value matters just as much as what you may be asking for. And let's talk about very briefly just navigating uncomfortable situations. Um, when it comes to work, right? I think you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of times you don't know what you don't know until you get there. So not every situation at work is going to feel completely comfortable, and that's absolutely normal. The goal isn't to avoid those moments, it's really to handle them thoughtfully. That means addressing things early on, staying professional and focusing on the actual situation and not the person. So those small wins can really make a difference in how the conversation goes. And it's really just as important to know that HR is here and you don't have to navigate these situations alone. We have a lot of resources. I have extensive training that, to help connect these pieces for you. So this is exactly where HR really is your resource, right? So when you think about navigating uncomfortable situations, right, you don't avoid them, you just handle them with intention. The more you get comfortable with proactively addressing something that makes you uncomfortable, makes you more equipped, right? You realize the positive impacts of it. And that also means too, great relationships with your team. So at the end of the day, a lot of what we talked about comes down to communication, awareness, and really using the resources available to you. You don't have to have all the answers. It's really all about knowing where to go and how to approach situations. That is the big difference. And it takes practice too. So that's what HR is here. This is exactly what HR is here for. We're really here to be that resource, that guide, not to punish you, that directions. And we're just here to make work a little bit easier and maybe these things that you go through a bit more comfortable. Um, this is it for my general HR portion. I know we are saving some of our questions for the end. So now I'm going to shift gears and hand it over to Angel just to talk about some basics, but very helpful benefits information.
Great. Thank you, Ariana. That was great, but here's the
Yes.
fun part about HR. So, once you start your employment, you will get offered health insurance, and with health insurance, depending on the company or the organization, the agency, you might have a choice from one plan or one coverage company to seven. So to just keep in mind, when you're selecting a health benefit insurance plan, you keep in mind these different aspects of it. So you'll see a premium and a deductible. What is a premium? A premium is what you'll pay out of your paycheck. So it could either be your biweekly deductions, monthly deduction, depending on the employer. And the deductible is what you pay out of pocket that the insurance then covers after that. So again, when you're selecting a medical plan, you want to look for those aspects of the coverage. There's also copayment. What a copay is, it's a fixed amount for services, but it's based on the type of service and the provider that you have. So again, you keep in mind, what plan gives a better copay versus the others. Some plans require you to pay no copayment. So, you want to navigate through that. There's also in-network, out-of-network. In-network, you make sure you're selecting a doctor or provider that is within the network, so that's covered by the insurance plan. So for instance, if you have a Horizon or Aetna plan, and you go to a doctor and let's say you have Horizon and they only accept Aetna, that will then be out-of-network coverage. So again, so keep that in mind, when you're going to your providers, when you're selecting a plan. I always say speak to your provider, so your healthcare provider, those are your doctors. If you go for physical therapy, a physical therapist, specialist, check with them, see what type of insurance they accept, and then select a plan from that. There's usually HMO plans and PPO plans. PPO plans are usually the ones that are open to a broader network, so that allows you to go to a wide variety of providers. So you want to make sure that it's a PPO plan, but HMOs are not bad. So if you have a provider and they accept an HMO and you have a selection from an HMO, well and good, select that. But HMO plans usually cheaper, so people always tend to go for the cheaper plan. That is good, but again, you have to make sure that it covers your needs. So depending on your medical requirement, that's when it will be easier to select a plan. I see people come in, NJIT specifically, because we're a part of the state of New Jersey. So if you're working for any state of New Jersey agency, you'll have about 10 options to select from. So again, that could be a little bit confusing. There are other medical situations. So it's like if it's a preventative medical checkup, then, it's typically free, right? It doesn't cost anything. You might need to pay a co-payment, and that's about it. If it's a diagnostic, then, there might be a specialist cost. Again, those are usually not as high unless you're either admitted into a hospital and it's a long-term illness. That's when your deductibles come into play. So, just keep in mind when those situations arise. Yeah. Move on. So now we'll talk about other aspects to its benefits. And I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted with the questions, but I will answer at the end. So other benefits that are available to you as an employee that you might not think of when you start your job or when you're in a job, I would say get the benefits paperwork done and out of the way, and you might not need to think about it later, but it's also important to know that these services are there for you. So there's a thing called Employee Assistance Program. That's the EAP. It's available at all employers. So every employer typically has this service. It guides you, helps you if you are facing any crisis. It could be mental health. It could be legal, financial. If you need those things of that type of support, this EAP plan should cover that, right? And it typically also helps if you can find references. So EAP usually helps depending on the company that you work for. They usually guide you and tell you what if you need legal advice, where to go, who's the best lawyer, or what service you can get. So it's typically good to know what EAP provider the company has and that contact information. So keep that in mind. The other benefit that's available to employees in most companies, tuition reimbursement. If you want to advance your education, it's good to look into the tuition reimbursement program. It might be 100% of the tuition, it might be 50%. There might be regulations on when you start working and the duration of your employment before you're eligible. So just check into that. It might also cover like degrees or diplomas or certificates. So you might want to check into that. So you might not want to do a whole degree and just want to advance in one area of your position. That might be a good thing to take advantage of. Also, employers offer life insurance and disability benefits as well. These are very important. Sometimes you do contribute towards them, and sometimes you don't. And if you don't, you need to know what value of that contribution is. So if it's non-contributory, most chances that you will not, know about it because, it's applied to your benefit, it's there for you, and you don't know. So it's great to know what the value of a life insurance is. You have to designate your beneficiaries. You know, you don't want anything, if anything happens to you, then it just goes to your estate. So just keep in mind to check on your life insurance and disability benefits as well. Um, Open enrollment matters. So once you select a medical plan and you're stuck, you have it, but then I don't know, 6 months down the line, it's not working as you expected. Typically, most companies have open enrollment periods, and this is a time where you're able to switch your plans without a reason, right? So you have your qualifying reasons. So it could be either marriage, birth of a child, unfortunately, death. Those are called qualifying life-changing events where you can switch your plans or switch the way you have your coverage. Open enrollment allows you to make those changes without a specific reason, right? So if you just don't like the plan and you want to switch it, this is the time to do it. So to make sure that you pay attention to when there's open enrollments, because this will be a good opportunity for you to switch your plans, review the plans that are available. There might be plan changes, maybe a different plan might be better for you. So it's great to look into this. All right, so wellness program, this covers from array of things. The company might say, attend this webinar, a mental health webinar, and you get free vacation or free parking, or walk 10,000 steps. There might be like a challenge in your organization that tells you, keep fit and you get this perk. So it's great to look at that. Specifically at NJIT, we have it. We have a wellness coach, and we have wellness programs. But not everybody knows about it because it's one of those things you think about after the fact, right? You go in, do your work, and you leave, and that's it. But it's great to think about, work-life balance. So the wellness programs will really help with that part of things. So it's very good to explore that. I'm leaving the 401k to the end because, this is a huge one, right? All right, so your retirement savings, 401k. Okay, so you might have a 401k, 401a, depending on what your employer provides. At the end of the day, it's all one umbrella. It's saving money for your future, right? So most 401ks, 401as, they do provide employer match. So let's say, for instance, you contribute 3%, the employer might do a 1-to-1 and match a 3%. They will tell you do 5 and they'll match 5, or they might double. So depending on what that match is, but it's very good to take advantage of it. If they're saying you need to contribute and they will match, it's best to contribute as much as you can, right? So make sure that you do take advantage of that. It does grow. Some companies have an addition to a 401k. So if a company has more than one retirement savings plan, take advantage on all of them. So I'll give you an example. I started with NJIT in 2012. NJIT has 3 retirement savings options that you can do at the same time. Working benefits, I preach it to everybody, but I didn't think of it. I did the regular mandatory one and forgot about the voluntary. I'm like, no, I need that money, and didn't do it. Now I started, right? 10 years later is when I'm like, oh, maybe I should do it. But then there's this employee who was retiring and they say they saved $5 per pay. And now they're retiring with 1.5 million in their voluntary retirement plan. And that's what pushed me. This was like 4 years ago. But I'm like, imagine if I started 10 years ago with $5 a pay, I would have a lot more towards retirement. So it might seem like money you're not having right now, but it will help in the future, right? So this person was retiring at this point, and here they have all this money that they started very small. So it's okay to start small and then grow it over time. And again, some plans you can stop and start. So if you have financial strains, then you can stop it and then start it again. But it's always important to think about that savings, because saving towards retirement might not seem like the thing to do when you're just starting off, but it definitely pays off towards the end. Right, that I think is my spiel for today. Then we can go to ask a question.
Angel, is it easier for me to read them for you?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And I just want to echo Angel's point about 401k. I just learned this being I'm 8 years out of college, and just learning now 8 years in that I should be matching, because it doesn't happen automatically. Is that correct? Like you
Correct,
have to go in
yes.
and okay. So
Naturally ask it.
I will be meeting with one of you to discuss that, because somebody else just came to me and said it really does You're not thinking about
You
it
do.
when you just get out of college and your first few years in, but
Yeah,
we all have a dream of retirement, so it really will pay off in the end. Yeah,
absolutely.
that was just my
Totally.
added two
I will
cents.
just add one thing to really emphasize the importance of 401k. When you get into the habit of that money coming out of your check, you're used to that.
Right.
Yeah.
You become
You have like this
100% used to
fear.
it. Yeah, you don't see it. Like sometimes you even forget about it. I forgot about a 401k I had from one of my old jobs. I was like, oh, okay. I'm just
Yeah.
going to keep that in there and keep
Right.
growing. So
Yeah.
just utilize it. It really is, it's one of the best benefits that exists
And
right
you
now.
can also, I'll also add, you can take a loan against your retirement savings, and it's a lower interest, and it's, I mean, it's your money. You have to pay back. Yes, it's a loan, but it's a lower interest. So, at least you have these funds available to you. So, yes, you're taking out of your check now, but if a rainy day comes around, you're able to loan against it. So,
Interesting. So starting off with the questions, Debbie said, is there a deductible on every insurance plan? I never understand that.
yes, unfortunately, yes. It's, it's just
And
the balance between the provider and the insurance company. So
and
they,
this is a good question that I probably have too. Does your copay count towards that?
some plans, yes, it does. Well,
And then Brett asked, you may cover this later, but what is imputed pay? Is there a way to reduce those costs?
so imputed pay, we call imputed income. It is covered from your life insurance. So if a company has a life insurance, you don't pay that imputed income above 50,000. So you pay it on 50,000. Once you hit the 50,000, then you don't pay it again. So it is a requirement because of that life insurance. I don't want to say income, but that coverage is like imputed income. So that's why you are taxed on that life insurance amount. So that's what imputed pay is.
In other organizations, I've seen where you get free perks. Like when I used to work at Activision Blizzard, I used to get a free game, and then when I cashed out that free game, I was taxed for it on my check. So just be mindful of that, and some other benefits that you may receive. You actually may receive the check. Excuse me, you're required to pay taxes on that too. So
Yeah.
yep. And
Any other questions? Somebody gave a good point. Evan said, I also want to note the 401k employer match does not count towards your maximum allowed 401k yearly contribution. It's entirely separate. So literally free money that has no tie to your 401k yearly limits.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So
Thank
yes, the IRS does have maximums that you can contribute. So the employer contribution doesn't count towards that max. So, like for this year, it's like 23,500. So you can contribute a whole 23,000 in a year if you can, obviously. And then you have this additional employer contribution. So I mean, why not? Right? And it's towards your retirement.
you. A great point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was wondering, and again, please continue to submit your questions, but somebody else might have this as well. Angel or Ariana, but probably Angel. Do you have any advice for, it's tax season, actually. I think taxes are due today. If you go to do your taxes and you realize you owe a lot of money, is there something you should be doing with your paycheck or your paycheck in general to try to
Yeah,
alleviate that?
that's a good point. So that retirement contribution actually comes in handy. Those contributions typically are pre-taxed. So if you do contribute towards retirement, it's a deductible in your tax. So it's a deductible tax, right? So it does not count towards your taxable income. You will be taxed when you retire, so that's why it's not counted right now. So that's one good way to save towards having to pay back towards taxes at the end of the year because your taxable income is reduced by your retirement contributions. The other way is obviously dependent. I'm not a tax advisor, so I'm putting that disclaimer out there. But the retirement one, I know that one. But the dependent allocation in your W-2 is also a good assistant to not having to owe back later. So, just to make sure that you're keeping that into consideration.
Thank you. Yeah. That was something I also realized my first year or two
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my career. Any other last minute questions? Anything you've ever wanted to ask your HR professionals? No question. Um, yeah, any question out there? Oh, we have somebody joining. Can everyone drop in the chat where they are in their career so we can get a sense of
Good point.
where are you? 11 years, class of 2017. Thanks, Evan.
Nice.
So hopefully this is all news, but I hope like
But say we know Evan contributes.
yeah.
Just starting out, Debbie's class of 2023, class of
Yes.
2024, 2019. Great.
Okay, so we definitely have some early professionals here, maybe even a few mid-level as well.
Class of
Yeah.
2019, class of 2019. Awesome. So first 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
2025. Congratulations.
Ah, nice. Yes.
Yes. Recent
So,
congrats.
yeah. So all of you class of 2019, go increase your retirement contribution. Say that.
All
This is the
right.
time.
Yes. Artie's got a question. What's a good way to bring up pay inequity and how to close the pay gap with HR?
So really, really great question. And this is one of the ones that the first step would be communicating to your manager. So let actually, I would be curious to know what your concerns are, why you may feel like there is some like inequity there, but ultimately the first best step is to communicate your concerns with your manager. In the same instances, right? If you feel like, for example, you may know someone else in your team is paid very similarly, or you may feel like you have more experience. In that conversation would be a good time to bring up some of your accomplishments. You say, hey, I just want to share that, I have maybe some concerns with my compensation. I want to make sure I'm paid equitably against peers in line with the level of my role and, also considering expectations. So, if you want and you're an employee here at NJIT, I'm happy to find some time with you offline to kind of go into that and how to like best navigate that. But generally, the first step would be communicating your concern to your manager. Let's say you communicate the concern to your manager for 6 to 7 to 8 months or a whole year later, and your manager's like, "No, I got you. I'm looking into it," or you feel like you're, getting the runaround. In that instance, probably good to come to HR. But when it comes to sensitive conversations about compensation, promotions, and potential disciplinary actions that could come from, let's say, performance, that is kind of communicated by your manager, um, we generally do have to keep your manager in the loop. They will be the first line of defense. If not, that's when HR escalates. We jump in and we make sure things are handled fairly. Of course, anytime.
Anything else?
I just wanted to bring up a good point that you mentioned earlier about how you should advocate for your career and finding new opportunities and promotions. Guys, I can't stress it enough for any new people here how important that is. Every promotion I have gotten has been me having a conversation with, either my boss or somebody higher up. I've been through a couple organizations at this point. I just started a new one a couple months ago, but you have to be the advocate for your own career. Nobody is going to tap your shoulder and just hand you a promotion on a silver platter. It doesn't matter how good you are at your job. Like I can't stress that point enough so much. Like the days of promotion being handed to you are over. Those days are gone. You have to advocate for yourself out there. That's how you're going to get those opportunities. So that was a great point that you brought up. I'm glad you brought that up.
No, thank
Of
you for,
course.
yeah.
Ooh. And thank you so much as well. Happy to hear like, a real live example of it because times have absolutely changed. We're in the age of technology, we're in the age of remote work, hybrid work. Everybody's just trying to sustain and maintain. So it really is important to take a look into yourself, write down your accomplishments, and be ready to speak to them. You're the only person that's going to be able to speak to your accomplishments that well. So thank you so much, Evan.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Evan, and thank you, Ariana and Angel. Um, we'll get ready to close out for tonight. I'll give everybody back some of their evening, and I think that was a great point to leave off on. But if you ever do have any questions in general or you need support in any way, please feel free to email me and we can pass this along. As I mentioned, this recording will be uploaded to the NJIT YouTube, so we can share. You can always share with peers. Um, I hope that you found this session useful. And as I mentioned, look for an email from me on how to access this, information on future events through the Young Alumni Association. We have several industry related and networking events, but also some social engagement events if you're ever interested in getting connected with the NJIT community again. I wish you all the best of luck with your careers, whether you're a few years out or um, starting a new career or new role. We really wish you luck, and we always love hearing our NJIT alumni accomplishments. So feel free to always reach out and say, I just got this promotion, or we love to hear the success of our alumni. So thank you again. Thank you so much to Ariana and Angel. This is such an important topic that is not talked about enough. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evenings to share with your expertise with us. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.